Well, welcome back to another Coffee and a Chat. This video is going up a little late today, and that's because yesterday was a really rough day for me. Today's still a little rough too. It's no big deal. I have stomach issues that I've had my whole life. And, sometimes some of the things that we try to do to fix things can make them worse. And I've had some of that, some choices that the doctors and I made at different times to try to better the situation and didn't necessarily better it. But it's okay because it's here because God allows it to be here, and he has a reason for it, because he can heal me. No question about that. And it's not a lack of my faith, but I know that, I come back to Paul, and he had a physical affliction, and he asked God to remove it and to heal him. And yet God came back to him each time and said, my grace is sufficient for you. And he left it as a thorn in the flesh to keep Paul humble. And so there are some things that God has miraculously healed me of in life, and I am so overly grateful, so abundantly grateful. I don't know if you could be overly grateful, but abundantly grateful to him for the healing that he has given me. But then there's some things, and I know I have people that will be like, oh, that's such a negative confession. I'm not apologizing for saying I have stomach issues. I have stomach issues, and I know God can heal them. He has not chose to do that at this point in life, so sometimes I have to deal with it. And it's okay, because there's always something good that comes out of it. And yesterday I had an amazing day with the Lord, even though I was in a lot of pain. It didn't take away from, what I spent a lot of time just sitting and reading in his word. And I read 1 Peter and 2 Peter, and there's so much that I got out of that yesterday. And I'm going back over it again. And there's some things that I think I want to do some videos on to bring to you guys too. But today I had a funny little situation happen, and that is reminiscent of something that happened this summer when I was 7 years old. And it feels significant. And so that's why I want to share it with you, because of everything that's going on and the things that are going to go on. I think it has to do with that. So let me just tell you the story when I was 7. And I may have told you this story, or a piece of it or something at one time. That's okay. I'm an old woman. I repeat myself. And sometimes, stories come from a little bit different angle or whatever. And I'm always trying to remember it as best I can. And then later I might remember a detail and go, oh no, wait, that wasn't it, was this. And, and I am so not wanting to mislead anybody. Then I feel horrible, like I'm going to go back and correct it. And when I'm learning to just go with it, that, it comes back to my memory the way it comes back to my memory, and I may recall a little more later or whatever. I believe that, Lord, you put your words in my mouth and you speak them out of me, and you allow them to land on the ears that you want them to land on, and for people to hear what you want them to hear, to see what you want them to see, so that your will is accomplished in us all. And we'll just go with that in the mighty name of Jesus, amen. So I'm not going to worry about it. All right. So when I was 7 years old, I was born in a small town, grew up in a small town, and lived there for the first 8.5 years of my life. And it was, I've talked about this little town. I think one time I did say where it was. I might have, I might not have. I'm going to go ahead and say where now. It doesn't matter, because if you know if you know this town, or you've lived there or lived there, oh, please drop it in the comments for me, because it's so amazing. I met a man through church a long time ago. And he was I think he was like 10 years older than I was. And so I had said something about where I was born, which was Lebanon, Oregon. And he's like, oh my word. Well, I was born in Lebanon, Oregon. I'm like, no way. He was 10 years before me at the same hospital, because we were born at the original hospital, which later burnt down and has been replaced maybe more than one time. It maybe's been replaced a couple of times by now. But we grew up, he was 10 years older than me. And, and I was like, we might have known each other because, it was a little town and all the kids played together. It was there. Everybody knew who everybody was. But I think his family had moved away when he was like 6 or something. So it was before I was born that they left. But it just was so bizarre to me that we had been born in the same hospital and in the same little town. And then as we kept talking and I found out who his parents were, it actually turned out we were distant cousins. So that one was one that just kept getting weirder. And then another time I met somebody where I lived in a bigger city when I was going to high school. And I did meet a young kid who actually went to the same high school I did, only I went to it when it was brand new, and he went to it when it was old board, bars on the windows like a prison, and it was completely different than what I'd gone through. And I was old enough to be his mother, so I was more than 20 years older than him. And anyway, that was kind of funny too. But Lebanon, Oregon, if you know Lebanon, Oregon, if you've been there, if you lived there or whatever, drop it in the comments, because that would just thrill my heart. Now, don't lie to me. I don't need any false joy. But if you do know this place, that's awesome. So anyway, I was 7 years old that summer and in Lebanon, Oregon. And usually, there was a lot of it because we all played together, and so there'd be a lot of kids, hanging out and playing with each other, doing whatever, going from house to house. And by that time I was all into the Barbie doll thing. I think I had just gotten my first Barbie doll. And so, but there was something different that summer that I ended up having a lot of alone time, just me and Jesus time. And it was wonderful. I loved it. I did not feel deprived or upset or anything. And so this one particular day, which I doubt I'll ever forget, it was, and I knew as it was taking place that it was a memory that I would never forget. Anyway, I'd been playing and running and chasing and fetching and stuff with my dog. Well, the dog was fetching, I was throwing. Yeah, the dog was bigger than me, but still, I guarantee she was the one fetching. And so I'd gotten hot and tired, and I laid down in that cool grass on my back and closed my eyes for a few minutes. And my dog, she laid down next to me, and I opened my eyes, and I was looking at the clouds and finding pictures in the clouds, and I just began to talk to my Heavenly Father and thanking him for all these things he gave me, and how beautiful those clouds were, and how wonderful it was that he put pictures in the clouds, and just how much I was amazed by God. Where I was spiritually as a child, with my faith so strong in him, even with bad things that went on and were around me, my faith was so strong in him, and he was my heart's desire. I regret losing that innocence that was once there. There is something so wonderful about that, but I grew up and I made some bad choices, and I've been through some things in life, not just at the hands of others, but at my own hands. And I regret that. But little Angie, 7-year-old Angie with her long blonde hair blowing in the wind, one of the neighbor ladies used to love to, an older lady, she would tell me, she'd call me to come over, and she'd have cookies or something. And she'd go, honey, when you play, can you please keep playing in the front yard? Because it just does my heart so much good to see you running back and forth in your long blonde hair blowing in the wind. So I can't remember her name now, but I used to go, Mom, I need to go out and run around front yard for Mrs. So-and-so, whatever it was across the street, because I see her sitting at her window, so I can go, so she can watch me run with my long blonde hair blowing in the wind. But anyway, this particular day, I was over on this, still, we lived on the corner. I was over on the side of the house that faced another street from this lady, but I was just laying there, and I was just talking to the Lord and just having the most sweetest time with him. A lot of wonderful things took place between God and I that day as I laid in the grass. And he began to speak to my heart and move on me. And I won't share all those things with you, but the one thing I want to share with you is he told me, Angie, because I'd say, oh, I love this grass, and how cool it is and the smell of it because it had just been mowed. And he goes, Angie, you need to appreciate that grass because soon you won't have a lawn to lay in anymore. And so I ran my fingers through the grass a little more and just tried to, take in all the smells and the sensations and then, I thanked him for my dog, and he goes, well, you need to appreciate your dog right now because soon you're not going to have her anymore. And I don't remember feeling sad or scared at what he was saying. I just was like, okay. And I reached over and I gave her some extra loves and petted on her, and she loved that. And, and then, I thanked him because I had finally gotten my own room and was not stuck sharing a room with my brothers anymore. And so, I was thanking him for that. And he goes, well, Angie, you need to appreciate that room because soon you're not going to have your own room anymore. And it just kind of went on, talking, and he began to just bring all these different things to mind and telling me, you need to appreciate it because soon you're not going to have it anymore. Now, what God knew, but I didn't know, was the next summer and see now, and this is where I go, now am I remembering this right? Was it the summer I was 8 and then we found out right after that? Or was it the summer I was 7? Because we moved during the summer I was 8. So I don't know. So some things have gotten fuzzy in this old mind. I believe it's when I was 7 and then in the next summer, I do know the next summer when I was 8, we moved. We moved from Oregon to Bloomington, Indiana, because my dad was going to school to get his master's degree. We lived on the 9th floor of student housing in a small apartment. I had to share a room with my brothers again. There was no grass to play on. There was just asphalt. And, and there was playgrounds and all that. But, yeah. And no, my dog did not get to go with us. We had to leave her with a family in the church, which we gave her to them. And I kept believing that when my dad got done with his master's degree that year, and then we would move back to Lebanon, I'd get my dog back, we'd go back into our home, everything. But see, we sold the house. Even my dad had the old pickup from off the farm, a 1939 I'm pretty sure it was a 39, maybe a 49. It was a something 9, and it was red and beat up and smelly like an old farm, and with the dust and, oh man, you just could smell everything. So I wanted that truck. When I grew up, I wanted that truck. I had been in that truck since I was a baby because we used to ride around in it on the farm, and which is the farm my dad grew up on. And then when I was 4, his dad died. And when his father passed away, my grandmother started to let a lot of things go. And eventually she sold the farm and went to Africa as a missionary. But my dad got the truck. And so it came to our house. And I'd been riding around in that truck with my daddy since my legs were too short to go past the end of the seat. And I can remember going on Sunday mornings, and I'd have my little patent leather, black shiny patent leather, Mary Jane shoes on that my grandfather had bought for me. He was funny about shoes because his father was a shoe cobbler. And I had little anklets with lace around them, and my little dress that I'd have on, and I can see myself sitting there. I can't see me, but I can see, my legs out in front of me, my chubby little legs and the little anklets and those shoes and everything, and bouncing around on, because that truck would just bounce, and I'd add some extra bounce to it. And my dad, I was the best son he ever had. And we would ride around in that truck, and I'd ride to church with him on Sunday mornings, and my brothers would go with my mom in the Volkswagen Bug. And I loved that old truck, but my dad sold it. He sold it for $100, and I remember he was so excited to get the $100 because that was a lot of money for that old truck. But he sold it to somebody who was super excited, and they were going to fix it up, and I don't know what happened to it. But it helped pay for us to move because, it was a lot less money for things. Back then, I remember because we didn't have a lot of money. And I remember my mom getting a dime, and we would walk down to the butcher's, and she'd put a dime up on the counter, and he'd take one hot dog out and wrap it up in the butcher paper and put it in a bag for her, take her dime. We'd go home. My mom would slice up that hot dog and put the slices on top of this nasty cornbread. It wasn't even really cornbread because she didn't have any ingredients. She had the cornmeal. She had water. That's what she had. And so, yeah, it made a really gritty mess. And so she would bake that and put a slice of hot dog on top of each piece that would be cut, and for our protein. And then my dad had a little thing of honey that he would try to douse it with so I could eat it. And when it was bad, and that's what we were having, I used to be like, yeah, I'm really not hungry, Mommy. And my dad would be like, you eat it. And my mom, I know, I could just see the tears in her eyes, because my mom was an awesome cook, but you can't make something out of nothing. And so she had to work with what she had. And I remember she'd get excited if she even had an egg that she could mix in. It would bind it together a little better. And it was just a mess. It was a mess, but it's what we had. And so I kind of have a problem with eating cornbread to this day, just because it makes me think about that. Even though, yeah, I have had some cornbread, and yes, it's delicious, but I still can't quite bring myself. And now, like the cornmeal she had, was real gritty. It wasn't like this real fine. I've got some that is just that real fine, more of a corn flour, and silky and stuff, and it makes everything really nice and smooth, because the texture was the worst part about that cornbread. So anyway, the Lord had told me to appreciate all these things because I wouldn't have them. And he was right on. And so I did. I appreciated that summer, that fall, that winter, that spring. I appreciated everything out of everything I had. And then my dad found out he was accepted into the program. And so then that next summer was very quick, pulling things together and getting the money together and selling everything. And we had a little U-Haul trailer that we pulled behind us. We got rid of everything that didn't fit in that U-Haul trailer, and off we went to Indiana. And it was a rough year for me in Indiana. There were a lot of not good things that happened while I was there, but again, the Lord uses everything, and I'm thankful for all of it. And when we came home, we didn't go back to Lebanon. We actually ended up moving to Eugene, still back in Oregon. And that's where I finished growing up. Well, sort of. I mean, that's where I was until I got married. I wasn't done growing up. I'm still not finished growing up. That's okay. And so, yeah, it was a real eye-opener for me. But, I really appreciated everything I had while I had it. And I thanked God for everything. And I remember just going around thanking him for every little thing. Like, even I'd put my shoes on and go, am I not going to have these shoes anymore? Because I thank you that I've got them right now. Because I would hate to be having to go barefoot and I love to be barefoot. But, if I was going to be going across gravel or something, I didn't love being barefoot. So I would be grateful that I did have shoes that I could put on. And in fact, my mom had a hard time keeping shoes on my feet, because I did love being barefoot, but there were some things that were not comfortable. So all this story is stirred up, and yeah, you got a lot of little extras in there because I'm Angie, and I'm not feeling very 100%. So I'll tell you right off the bat, you know how it is when you're not feeling that good. You don't always on your game the whole way, but I was trying to get a load of laundry done, because even when you don't feel good, there's some things that just have to be done. Yeah, not everybody has the luxury of being able to just sit or go to bed or whatever and feel better. And for us, when Marvin and I, if either one of us is down not feeling good, and if we're both down not feeling good, we still have things we have to do because it's survival. So I was putting the laundry from the washer. I was putting a load from the washer into the dryer. And I heard the Lord say, be grateful for your dryer. It's not always going to be here. So I thanked him for the dryer, and what a convenience. Now I have a clothesline that when the weather is conducive, I love to hang my clothes out. Well, I don't know that I love the process of hanging them out anymore because things are getting more challenging for this old body. But I love clothes that have hung on a line, and that fresh, clean smell, there's just nothing like it. And the crispness, like when you hang sheets out. Oh, love it. Especially if I've got linen sheets. So my favorite. And anyway, but I thank him for that dryer, because I didn't have a dryer till, a ways back, when everything broke down. That was one of the things that broke down. The old dryer's sitting out back here waiting to go to the scrapyard. But, the Lord provided this dryer, and we were able to go get it. And it was a big job getting it hooked up, because we found that the vent hose that we had needed to be replaced. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot for Marvin, and there's a video on it, and the blessing that while he was under the house, because we don't have a crawl. I mean, it is a crawl space, only he has to kind of scoot around on his back. I mean, it's a very small space under the house, and I hate every time he has to go under there. But while he was under there, I asked the Lord if there's any other problems that need to be fixed, if you could take care of that while he's under there. And sure enough, there was a pipe coming undone that needed some new joints put in, and we had what we needed, and we were able to hand it down to him. Our grandson was here kind of helping out, and so I could hand things to him, and then he'd hand things under the house to Grandpa, and then Marvin got everything replaced. So he didn't have to go in and out from under that house, which was, such a blessing. So, it was a big job, but now I have a dryer, a wonderful dryer that got it used off of, I think it was off Facebook Marketplace, and not a lot of money, but that thing works so good, and it's such a blessing. And so I was thanking him for it. And then I was getting the next load ready to go in the washer, and he's like, and be thankful for that, because you're not going to have that, it's not going to be here either. And, that's a little harder. I've had to do laundry in bathtubs and sinks and whatever. So if I have to, then I will. But if you've ever done that, you're very thankful to have a clothes washer, because that is hard work, and it's hard work. So as I've been walking through the house today, it's like this sense of gratitude for even the smallest things. I haven't put shoes on yet, but I'm going to thank him for the shoes I have. When I put them on, I'm going to thank him for the pair of socks that I have to put on. I'm thankful for the slippers I have on right now, because he's telling me that a lot of these things that I don't even give a thought about, I just kind of take them for granted. They're not going to be here. That I'm not going to have all these things. He's telling me some other stuff too, that goes with it. But I'm just like, you know what? Life is changing. Things are changing. And right now, most of us, whether we've got a lot of money or not hardly money at all, most of us are living with a lot of conveniences. I purposely don't live with all the conveniences I used to live with. I've been, the Lord's been slowly working on me to get rid of a lot of those things, and to get back more old school and be more self-sufficient, not so dependent on other things, that especially things that need like gasoline and electricity and whatever to make them function. And and that's just part of what I felt the Lord has told me to do in preparing for the days that are coming. And so that's what I've been doing. But even with that, I still have a lot of conveniences. Even I have 4 toilets that flush. That's a convenience. It really is. Those toilets may not always be there. I may not always have a flushing toilet. Sinks with running water. I may have to haul water again. I don't know. I don't know how tough life might get, but I know to be prepared. So today I am appreciating what I have and being grateful to the Lord and acknowledging it to him. And I just wanted to share it with you, because maybe you ought to be doing that too. See how God speaks to your heart, what he lays on your heart. But let's not take things for granted, because Yeah, we live with a lot of things that people used to live without all the time. They didn't have anything like that. And we may end up back in those times. Can we do it? I think yes. We have a way of figuring it out. But right now, will we have comforts and conveniences? Let's be grateful and appreciative. All right. I love you guys, and I'm going to go get back to that laundry and the dishes and all of that. Yeah, because even though I don't feel like doing it, it's got to be done. And so he's been helping me get through it, and he's going to continue to. All right, you guys be blessed today, and we'll talk again tomorrow.